My name is Susannah Eastwick. I serve as the director of the Physician MBA program at Indiana University's Kelley School of Business, and I'm thrilled to spend time with all of you. You are in for an incredible experience, being able to learn directly from Dr. Colombo, who just graduated on Saturday. She's going to be able to share her perspective on the program, and it's very fresh and new perspective. Thank you for spending time with us. So let me dig through a little bit of our nuts and bolts before I turn it over to Dr. Colombo. So first, of course, the Physician MBA. And there's only a handful, if that, of physician MBA programs in the country. And I often get the question of, okay, why a physician MBA? I mean, obviously, Kelley has many different MBA programs you can choose from. So why did we start an MBA program for physicians? Well, we are very focused on our mission. This program grew out of a program we started with our School of Medicine here on the IU campus and has stubbornly stuck to the mission that we believe that physician leadership is the change that needs to happen in healthcare, and specifically that physicians best understand patient care. And so if we can equip you with the tools, knowledge, and skills that you need to lead most effectively, then you can play the leadership role in driving change. I'm actually here at the SGIM conference, the Society for General Internal Medicine conference here in DC, and just went to a session yesterday on physicians as CEOs. And it was a research study done out of McKinsey that was just explosive in the recognition that anytime a physician is in a CEO role, which is actually any leadership role, they went on to extrapolate that the organization performs better on every metrics, on efficiency, on performance, on financial accountability, et cetera, because physicians best understand how to help make the mission and the margin align. And so that's what we're doing, is we're equipping you with the knowledge, skills, and tools to be successful in helping lead change across healthcare. So of course, the Kelley School of Business, and I want to note this is a great picture from our leadership course here on the screen. The Kelley School of Business, of course, is one of the top business schools in the US. We have #1 rankings across the board, probably most notably for our online MBA program. And why do we share this? Because when you come to a top-ranked business school, you know you're going to get a certain quality of faculty, a quality of students, and an applicability by coming to a program that's recognized as a top-ranked school. And being at the #1 ranked online MBA, and we've been ranked #1 for more than a decade now, means you can study online with us with confidence, knowing we are the top of our game and how we deliver business content online. So as I mentioned, one of the reasons why it's so valuable in terms of being at a ranked business school is the faculty. And in our case, our faculty that teach in our physician MBA program are actually quite unusual. In business schools, faculty are incentivized to do research specifically in consumer goods, manufacturing, and things like that. They're not typically incentivized to do healthcare research. And that's primarily because healthcare is so heavily regulated. And you'll hear people say this, and you'll never hear that answer from our faculty because that's a research area for them. They do joint research with our medical school. But additionally, they're also really qualified and skilled at teaching physicians. They understand the physician learning style being, there's actually been a study done on how do you deliver CMEs effectively for the long-term retention of knowledge in practicing physicians. And what they found is that you first recognize what the physician already knows, then introduce the new knowledge, give you an opportunity to apply that knowledge, and then reflect on it. That cycle is what increases your retention. So you'll see our delivery model is built around the learning style, but also our faculty. They're always going to find a way that you're applying what you're learning and reflecting on what you're learning so that you get that retention. And of course, they are very well skilled at both online learning and in-person content. Here's a great quote from one of our alumni in the program, Dr. Summer Lidston Crandall, who graduated last year. She's a CMO at a regional hospital in Wisconsin. And her quote here, "I enrolled in this program because I want to make healthcare work better and know how to navigate our complex system. Learning alongside other physician leaders and from faculty who've taught physicians from the start really makes a Kelley Physician MBA stand out. Whether learning process improvement, economics, or finance, we can apply everything to the healthcare setting. Another quote here from Dr. Andrew J., who graduated from our program a few years ago. He says, "This has been one of the most valuable experiences in my professional life. I can say with absolute authenticity and conviction, it's valuable to step away from your practice to gain that 30,000-foot view in the big picture of health and to do it of healthcare, and to do it with like-minded colleagues and discussing concepts with your expert faculty in a meaningful way. You can apply it to your everyday job." It was an exceptional opportunity. And so Andrew and Summer both demonstrate that ability that our faculty have to be those experts that help you apply what you're learning into healthcare. So why choose the Physician MBA program? When you're looking at MBA programs and you're really thinking about what's the best match for you, where's the best investment? How do I best spend my time? There's 4 different things to look at. It's who's teaching the courses, so looking at those faculty. What are the courses? Who will you be studying alongside, and what value will they add? And then how are the courses delivered? And so we've talked about the faculty and the incredible expertise that they bring. Let's talk about the curriculum. And I always say, as you're considering MBA programs, take the curriculum of each program and sort of lay it out and compare. Take a highlighter and highlight, these are the classes that I'm most interested in. When you play that game, we win every time. And I can say that with confidence because our curriculum is a specially designed curriculum right at the intersection of business and medicine. And it's really designed to answer the question of what do physicians most need to know to lead the industry moving forward. And so what we do is we pull best practices from all industries. So from manufacturing, from consumer goods, from services, et cetera, and talk about how those could be used in healthcare. And so ultimately, we don't just talk about how is the healthcare system currently operating, but how it should operate and where it needs to change. And if you're thinking, oh my gosh, I've looked at some of the courses, excuse me, and I'm not a quantitative person, I can't do math, et cetera, et cetera. All the time, we always pair a quantitative course with a qualitative course. So each quarter, you're sort of using both sides of your brain and really getting that nice balance and ability to think very strategically throughout our curriculum. And we use a problem-based learning model. Now, if you remember, I was just talking about the physician learning style and how important it is that you apply what you're learning in order to retain the information. And that's what we do in almost every single class. We're always asking you either to bring in situations you're facing within your organization, projects from a team member's organization. You're on study teams of 4 to 5 physicians each, and you change teams throughout the program so that you get the opportunity to really network with one another. We use a case-based teaching method, which is very popular among the top business schools, and it's a very experiential program. Dr. Colombo can talk about one of the highlights in her curriculum was a trip to Toyota to really look at how does Lean Six Sigma work in practicality. And so you'll see that problem-based learning. And it really ultimately ends with the capstone course, which is we ask you to think of a real world problem that you would want to solve in the next 2 to 3 years that either is from your organization or a new organization or a new problem you want to solve. And we give you the framework to essentially write an entire business plan around that solution, as well as make an executive presentation around it. So you're in a cohort-based program. You come in with the same group of physicians. You take all your coursework together in what's called a lockstep curriculum. So that means it really builds upon itself. You start with the more entry-level courses, and then it graduates to the capstone, sort of like a wedding cake, a tiered wedding cake. You're in a room of like-minded individuals. So that's one of the huge benefits. When you go into like a traditional executive MBA, everybody, when you go into a traditional classroom, everybody already speaks the language of business, right? They already are talking about different financial concepts and marketing concepts. It's sort of their daily language. It's kind of like going to one of your administrator meetings where you're Googling the words that they're saying, trying to figure out what are they saying. In our case, everybody walks in the door with the same clinical language and then uses the language of business to evolve themselves together. And that peer learning aspect is one of the highlights of the program because you can actually learn as much from each other as you do from the faculty. And we really encourage that through our team-based peer learning that I already mentioned. It's a very flexible delivery model. Almost all of our online work is asynchronous. We will offer live class sessions. They're always on Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. But if you're not able to attend live, they're recorded. And so you can watch them at your own convenience. And the rest of it, you decide when you want to plug in with the program. The faculty always stay a few weeks ahead of you so that you can work ahead in the program. And we really think about efficiency. Like, for example, if you were considering one of our other programs, such as our Alumni MBA, the workload is much higher because they don't know what everyone knows and they have to have that. So our workload in our online MBA is closer to 20 hours a week, whereas in our physician MBA, our physicians report spending about 10 to 14 hours a week on average. And of course, that's an average, but that's very doable because a lot of it is put together in bite-sized chunks, 15, 20-minute videos, readings that can be picked up and put down. And so we think about your workload and how to make this effective while also still challenging you. It's a 51 credit hour MBA program. It is not by any means going to be in a sort of the Diet Coke of an MBA, but it is going to be very respectful of your time and very much programmed to how you learn and what you need to know. We give you an executive coach for the duration of the program who walks alongside you, essentially saying, as you're going, like, what are you learning? How are you learning it? And what are you doing with it to achieve the goals you have set for yourself? We also have courses that go abroad and look at healthcare systems outside the US. Dr. Colombo can talk about that. She was on our trip to Portugal and Spain. We change locations every year. And our goal with that course is really looking at best practices throughout the world and where we might be able to learn from those best practices to help change the US healthcare system. So next year, we always go in February of every year, we'll be going to Costa Rica and Panama. And those trips are open to you both as a student in the program, but also as an alum. They're CME granting, of course. And so you can take advantage of that course anytime, either as an enrolled student or as an alum of the program. We also go to DC and do an immersive study on healthcare policy, really looking at how the physician voice could better be inserted in policy. Because again, remember, we're focused on how do we leverage physician leadership to drive effective change in the industry. And so we're very much talking about that through healthcare policy. I mentioned our capstone already. We do a career management and professional development course as well that you can take that teaches you your resume, LinkedIn, executive recruiters, all of that. And then throughout, we offer you CME credits. You earn credits every quarter, which is just part of that efficiency piece, right? We recognize your time, but it also allows you to reroute your CME dollars to get reimbursed for tuition in the program. And if you're in a private practice, obviously you can realize the tax benefits around the CME credits as well. Here's a quote sort of capturing everything that I just said from the alumni perspective. Dr. Sonal Desai, who is graduated in 2022, her quote here, everything we learned in the physician MBA program was an opportunity for immediate application at my work. The goal of the physician MBA is to teach us how to use new skills and skill sets, and our goal is to apply them. The added value of attending a top-tier program is that you learn from professors and colleagues from diverse backgrounds, levels of leadership, and expertise who help you build your foundational business skills. So if you look at your screen here, there's a bit of an eye chart. This is the program of study that most of you have received in an email from me. Our program of study basically breaks down our curriculum. So the way that it's organized is you take 2 classes at a time for 11 weeks at a time. We're on quarters. So you have 7 quarters in the program that last 11 weeks each quarter, and you get a week-long break in between each quarter. And in the summer, you get 2 weeks in between because that helps with family vacation planning and so forth. And you can see as you look at the screen here, we have accounting paired with anatomy and physiology. We pair business analytics with marketing. So that left brain, right brain piece of things. And you'll also see in the gray bar at the bottom of each table or each quarter is the in-person component. We're 70% online and 30% in-person. Our in-person is once every 3 months. You come here to Indianapolis for a 3-day class session that is Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And so those dates are already identified. We work years in advance with those dates. They never change. And so you can plan around those as well. And the weekends fall on the 6th week of class. So you sort of back to that physician learning style, you're spending that time online, sort of learning the new content. Then you come in person, you apply that content, and then you go back online to reflect it. So we actually built our delivery model completely around how physicians best learn. You should expect to see an assignment most weeks, whether that be analysis, reading assignment, an online discussion, a team project. There's typically something to do each week. But the faculty always stay 2 weeks ahead of you. So if you're somebody who's like on a week on, week off schedule, you can actually just do most of the program on your week off and then just pay attention when you're on your week on. It still allows you to take vacations and go to conferences and so forth, the things that are important to you. Now, before I turn it over to Dr. Colombo, here's just a few things to sort of know about what does a cohort typically look like in our program. And again, these are averages. So we'll have a full diversity of range, but we typically see a cohort somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 physicians. This is actually from our most recent cohort. We'll see 20 different states represented. The majority of our physicians come to us from outside of Indiana, so this is not a regional program by any means. Our average age is right around 45. Average years of experience post-residency is about 15 years, and you'll see a very diverse group of specialties within the cohort, typically ranging somewhere around 38. 37, somewhere in there. So that's kind of, if you're trying to put yourself in, like, what does this look like? That's some averages to get around. A quote about that cohort. This is from Dr. Selene Christensen, who graduated last year as well. Who's a neurodevelopmental pediatrician. Her quote, "The major reason I chose the Kelley School was the in-person residencies. That's how you get to know people. You eat lunch together, you talk during breaks, and you learn about experiences different from yours. My cohort includes phenomenal people who I never would have met otherwise. These people bring a variety of backgrounds and perspectives, and every last one of us wants to fix medicine. And the Kelley Physician MBA gives us the tools to actually do it." Another quote about that peer learning environment from Sachi Hiramath, who graduated in 23, who's assistant VP. His quote, "The best part of the physician MBA program is working and learning alongside physician peers, which is missing in a fully online MBA program. Zoom cannot replace three-dimensional human interaction." So with that, a few more details before I turn it over, and I just like to always make sure it helps to talk about the investment, and this is typically an investment not just of your time, but also your resources. So when we talk about cost, our cost is comprehensive, so include all your instruction, your technology, your student experiences, meals, snacks, networking events, the primers that we give you before you start the program. We do primers now on Canvas, Excel, and AI, and how to leverage AI as a tool in the program. It also includes all your executive coaching, your career coaching, the webinar series, and all your CMEs. So our program cost is about $96,000 total for the 21 months. And then we do recommend budgeting for your travel expenses depending on your distance. Now, how do you pay for it? A lot of people leverage different payment plans. You can also look at financial aid as a way to finance the cost of the program. Payments don't begin until 6 months after graduation, so that gives you a lot of flexibility. We do offer scholarships that help defray your travel costs, so you can see those on our website. And then we encourage you to talk to your employer about being a partner with you on this program. And in fact, we give you bullets on our website of how you can make that ask. And then also, since we're giving CMEs each quarter, you can reroute your CME funds to get reimbursed for the tuition in the program, which every little bit can help. But you definitely also want to talk to your HR office. Every organization typically has some kind of tuition benefit that they offer all employees. It's typically around $5,000 a year. And so you also can leverage that to help pay for the program. And we can help you with that if you have any questions about how to make the most of that. Additionally, we are still accepting applications for this fall. We still have spaces available. Our application process is very streamlined because it's an MDDO required. There are no standardized exams. It is simply provide the form, the fee, the medical school transcript, your CV, a personal statement, 3 people that can recommend you, and then we do an interview when all of that is complete. So it's a very straightforward application process. We're accepting applications until July 1st, or the cohort is filled, whichever one comes first, which we do cap our classes at 45. So if you're thinking about applying for this fall, you want to move swiftly as we are filling. Our last cohort was 44, so we typically get close to that cap. A last quote before I turn it over to Megan. This is from Catherine Moya, who is a CMO at an FQHC in Florida, who graduated in 23. Her quote, "It was the best decision I made to go for it. And the return on my investment is significant. If you're serious about leadership, having the physician MBA from the Kelley School of Business will open a lot of doors. So with that, I'd like to turn it to Dr. Megan Colombo, who just graduated from the program on Saturday. Congratulations. Who's going to share a little bit more about her experience in the program. Thank you, Megan, for your time today. We really are grateful for you.
Well, thank you, Susannah. My name is Megan Colombo. I'm a breast imaging radiologist at MD Anderson, the Cancer Center here in Houston. I serve as clinical medical director at our breast imaging Houston area locations and also as faculty co-director of MD Anderson's Leadership Institute. And as Susannah said, I recently graduated Kelley's program, literally last Saturday, so the ink is still wet. But what I really wanted to do today is share an honest reflection on what this experience has meant to me professionally, personally, and as a leader. And for me, this journey was never really about adding the letters to my name, but it was about learning how to think differently, how to lead more intentionally, and to better navigate the increasingly complex systems and teams that we see in healthcare. So at the time I entered this program, I was already well established clinically, about 15 years out from residency, and I had already stepped into a larger operational leadership opportunity. What I started to quickly realize was that many of those challenges I was facing were not purely clinical problems. They were actually system problems, people problems, communication problems. And so I found myself increasingly interested in areas like organizational behavior, finance, change management, and strategy, topics that we don't traditionally receive extensive training in as physicians. And honestly, it really felt a lot like intellectual curiosity too. I wanted to grow. And the MBA became a very intentional investment in my long-term leadership development. So why did I choose Kelley? What drew me specifically to Kelley was how practical and physician-centered the program felt. I did a lot of research on the MBA search, lots of programs out there, but Kelley's structure worked incredibly well for someone like me who was needing to balance a full clinical and leadership workload. I never felt like I had to step away from my career in order to invest in my growth. And what I appreciated most was how immediately applicable the coursework was. There were countless moments where I would learn something in class and then find myself applying it in meetings, operational discussions, or leadership conversations almost immediately afterwards. I also really valued the breadth of the experiences beyond the classroom, including our global healthcare experience. I had an opportunity to go to Portugal and Spain in 2025, and then also had an opportunity to do our DC healthcare policy course, which was incredible in October of last year. And it all really has helped broaden how I think about healthcare leadership overall. Ultimately, the cohort really became one of the most valuable parts of this experience because we learn just as much from the people around us as we do from the coursework itself. So just to double click on that, this has been the cohort has been one of the most meaningful aspects of this program, learning alongside physicians from an incredibly diverse specialty background and leadership environment background. And you quickly realize that whether someone's in radiology, surgery, emergency medicine, many of the leadership challenges are actually very similar. There's a lot of peer coaching that happens, accountability and honest conversation. And I think there's something really powerful about being in an environment where highly accomplished people are also willing to be vulnerable and admit they don't have all the answers. Some of my greatest growth really came from hearing perspectives that were completely different from my own. And that diversity of thought has really strengthened how we think. And so I believe that, we grow because of people around us. So if I had to summarize the areas within that were highest return on investment for me, I would say finance, operations, organizational behavior as the hard skills, and then negotiation and emotional intelligence as the soft skills. The Kelley MBA really gave me the language and frameworks for challenges that I was already encountering every day. The finance and accounting really helped me better understand organizational decision-making, operations and systems thinking, how I approached workflow design, scalability, and resource utilization. And honestly, the emotional intelligence and communication adaptability were probably some of the most impactful lessons overall. The program really increased my confidence in executive level conversations and also helped me better understand how people, systems, and incentives impact and interact with one another. So how did the MBA change me as a leader? I would think the biggest transformation was becoming a more intentional leader. I became more comfortable navigating ambiguity and organizational complexity. I also learned that leadership is much less about authority and more about influence, communication, and alignment. And Kelley does an exceptional job of connecting strategy to operations and better understanding how to bring people along for change. So it also reinforced the importance of adapting communication styles depending on your audience. And at the end of the day, realizing that leadership is really deeply relational. So one of the things I appreciated most was that the MBA never felt theoretical. I was constantly applying these concepts directly back into my work at MD Anderson, whether it was scaling programs for citizen centers in the community, workforce planning, financial stewardship. Those frameworks became immediately useful. And even my capstone project focused on designing a scalable enterprise remote coverage model for a multi-site breast imaging network. And it really just reinforced the importance of systems thinking in healthcare leadership. So this program overall has really helped me approach problems that are more strategic as well as a systematic framework rather than just being reactive about it. So the unseen returns on the MBA investment, I just want to quickly highlight. So, above the waterline, you're thinking of strategic frameworks, financial literacy, operational tools. But underneath, there's immense personal growth. You realize the importance of being vulnerable in executive spaces, how the leadership principles can apply across industries. We have a lot of great problem-based and case-based examples that are directly transferable to the healthcare environments, the complex healthcare environments that we face. And then you also really need to value power of diverse perspectives. And then the relationships and the mentorship, as well as the executive coaching piece that are just foundational to this program. So what would I tell a future Kelley MBA student? My biggest advice would be don't wait until you feel quote unquote ready. Growth often comes through discomfort. So I was committed to engaging deeply with this program, with this cohort. I wanted to stay curious. I asked questions. And I was really in a position where I was willing to challenge my own assumptions. And I think that is just such a powerful tool to use in this space. And also understand that the return on investment really comes in compounds over time. So some of the greatest value comes from those relationships, the mindset shifts, the confidence that you're actually building gradually throughout the experience. And you truly will not leave this program as the same position leader. At the end of the day, leadership is really about people. It's how we inspire, encourage, and support others around a shared mission. I am incredibly grateful for this experience, the relationships, and the opportunity to continue learning and growing alongside such remarkable colleagues. And so I just want to thank you all so much. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
So for those of you who are watching, hand us questions. What questions can we answer for you? Across the bottom of your screen, you'll see either the Q&A button or the chat button. Either one of those are the best way to ask any questions that you might have. You can ask Megan questions about, in our program, everybody has a title between our faculty and our students. So to create a community of peers and learners, we're on a first name basis only, which is fun because at graduation, I'm like, how do you say your last name? Because I never say it. But that's how our program works in terms of developing that community. So ask questions about everything that you want to know. So Megan, a question here from Dr. Prentice. What is the leadership residency that's listed on the academic year calendar? Talk about your experience in the leadership residency.
Yeah. So am I correct? Was reading with the first cohort that did this? Okay. So before kind of the grind of the classwork begins, we have a dedicated week in August in Indiana, an opportunity for us to meet our whole group, our entire cohort. The week is packed with all kinds of learning. One of the highlights was, of course, we do this thing called the pit crew, where we actually go to the Indianapolis racetrack area and learn how to change tires as a team, which I never thought I would ever experience that before. But the learnings that came out of that from a leadership perspective were incredible and applied across the spectrum throughout the course of my MBA. We have a number of course offerings throughout that week with some assignments that are due as well. But really, I felt that it was a great opportunity for us to connect with our cohort. We'll be sitting in a classroom with and getting to know over the next 21 months and really beginning to build a framework for the MBA program. So, key component of the program.
Yeah, and it's funny because I didn't have it in my slides there, and it's one of the highlights that starts the whole program. So I'll go back and update my slides to make sure that's in there. But it's really at the end of that week is actually when you get paired with your executive coach. You take a personality assessment, the Hogan, which then we give you the opportunity to do 360 with as well. And so it's the kickoff to the entire program, centers you and creates that framework. You said it so well there, Megan. And if you're looking at your schedule and you're like, okay, I can't make that work this year, you can do it in your first year or your second year. It's preferred in your first year, but if you've got a conflict this August, we can always flip it to the second year if need be. So there's again, we're very flexible around physician success. And so there's that piece. And I think we had the key learning moments of the graduating cohort as they crossed the stage. And so many people listed that week as one of the highlights of the program. Other questions, if you're not seeing it across the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A button that you can use to ask us questions. You can also use the chat function to ask us questions as well. So Megan, a great question from Dr. Russell, which is one that it's the biggest question, right? You can be as successful as possible with everything, but time isn't always your friend, right? So how did you find the budgeting of time to work with, a heavy week of clinical work? How did you get your assignments done, your class participation? Tell us how you did. How did you manage your time?
Yeah, I mean, that's great. I'm definitely a planner. So the great thing, right, beginning of each of the quarters, you're given a syllabus, right? The beautiful thing is that we do have coursework lectures on Zoom on a weekly basis. They're all recorded. So if, for instance, I missed a Tuesday evening lecture, I could go in Canvas, download it, watch it on my own pace. So that was helpful. And I really just wanted to prioritize this. So I think when we prioritize things, we end up finding time to do them. I have a very busy life, even outside of clinical work. I have children, a husband that keeps me very busy too. So I think really just structuring the time in that way. Love the fact too that they give you the entire 21 months, all the dates. So at my place of employment, we can actually put in requests for up to a year out. So I just kind of flagged and put in the requests for leave and for travel leave on those dates that worked. And then as Susannah explained, our courses there's like left brain, right brain that are paired together. So some courses do require a good amount of intensive kind of time consuming effort, but they're typically paired with something that's just a little bit less intensive. So over the course of the 21 months, I think all of us got through it and figured out how best to balance it. So.
It is one of the biggest challenges is, every physician in our room is incredibly smart and knows how to learn. It's about prioritizing time. And some of the things I recommend doing, our faculty will typically release the entire course at the beginning of the class. So if you're a planner like Megan, you can go on your schedule and be like, okay, this is when a major assignments due. This is when a major projects due, and then kind of organize around them. Now, you can't always organize your clinical workload accordingly, but my recommendation is always to sort of look at your schedule and say, where are chunks of time, identify chunks of time that you can carve out and say, this is my dedicated time that I'm investing in myself for this program. And then if you protect that time, that tends to get you the results that you're looking for. Because education, we all know it's a symbiotic relationship. So the more you put in, the more you get out. And you don't want to make this investment without being able to get out of it what you're hoping to get out of it. And so we're going to give you the format in the best of our ability to be efficient, effective, flexible, etc., and as planful as possible, right? We can tell you our international dates for years to come so that you can plan all your international trips with us. So we will help do everything we can to help you plan for that. You can use that Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. You can use the chat functionality, whichever one you like. Megan, you already got asked a question that I always ask, so I'll ask a follow-up in terms of how do you see, I mean, you're recently graduated, but how do you see from your vantage point sort of the alumni network being a benefit to you? You've now made these relationships within the classroom. How do you see those relationships continuing to sort of pay dividends over time?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. And I meant to double click on that and in my presentation. So gosh, you get introduced to the Kelley network during Leadership Week. We are meeting physician leaders across the domain. Kelley has been around this program has been around for over a decade. So the alumni network is fantastic. The global healthcare experience, alumni travel on that graduated 10 years ago. So you really have dedicated time to really invest and connect with physician leaders across the US. And then they also come to some of them teach some of our courses or serve on a panel in that space. But Susannah is also a very good connector of people. So if there's a specific interest, or if you want to kind of understand who else in your organization or state that you're living in has gone through Kelley and is a physician leader, it's an open door. I think the relationship is set, and it's an opportunity for us to connect in that place as well.
Yeah. And we provide a lot of ways in which you can stay engaged as an alum with the program, with each other, with other alumni. And then we also plug into the larger Kelley alumni network. The Kelley School, primarily because of the strength of our online MBA program, has the single largest living alumni network of any business school. So all you have to do is say, hey, I'm looking for somebody who works at GE, and we can give you a list, a big long list of every Kelley alum that works there. And let me tell you, when IU won a football game earlier this year, for the first time in our history ever, when they won a little game, I saw so many alums that I hadn't seen before who were just so proud to see that trident anywhere in the world. And they sort of came out of everywhere, and especially Kelley alums. So with the few remaining time we have left, I want to make sure any questions you might have, there's a Q&A button at the bottom that you can also ask a question in chat. So on that note, any last sort of closing thoughts? You gave a bit of advice there, but if you had to say, like, what are the 3 takeaways that this program really changed who you are, where you're going, with, or any closing sort of advice you might have before we close today?
Yeah, no regrets. I'm so glad that I did this when I did it. Wish I would have done it earlier. Yeah, it's really been a gift. I've learned so much, and you're really investing in your own personal and professional development. Oftentimes we're always helping others, like forward facing, and this really was an investment in my professional growth. Gosh, it's an incredible program, and I just hope all in all would consider joining this incredible program and Kelley network.
Thank you. And Megan, I can't thank you enough for spending time with us today. I appreciate you giving it to us and sharing it with the prospective physicians who are on the call or watching the recording as well. So thank you. And to the rest of you, thank you for spending time with us today, learning about the Kelley Physician MBA. We are hopeful that this is the start of our conversation together and that we will have many, many more conversations to go. So thank you all for being here today. We will talk again soon.